Hey, what's going on, guys? So it's John here. I want to go ahead and say thank you for the people that have been able to support the channel and be able to engage with me on any social media platform that I'm currently at. If you guys ever have any questions, comments, or concerns, do not hesitate to like, comment, subscribe. I really enjoy engaging with you on all the social media platforms that I'm currently at. So I'm going to go ahead and get straight into the article, right? So the article's title is The Economic Revolution. So to the viewers, I wanted to say thank you for keeping up with the channel. I'm thankful for your engagement and your feedback, and I hope to get more information out to you as it comes to me. So for the last month and a half, I've been somewhat busy building out the listener base for the channel and focusing on monetization so I can hire a team for the marketing and advertising to hopefully make the channel more profitable. But I won't bore you with all that. It's been relatively unsuccessful, and I'm going to continue to see if I can engage with you on all fronts. So, for this article, I wanted to talk about the economic revolution that I believe is necessary for the survival of our democracy. Over the past few months, we've been locked away due to COVID, and some weeks ago, we had the tragic passing of George Floyd. What I like to think during these times is how could this have been prevented? How could we have stopped this situation from happening in the first place? Who is to blame? Is it the officers for doing what they signed up for? Is it George for being at the wrong place at the wrong time? Possibly doing the wrong thing? Is it his city for not taking better care of individuals under his circumstances? Is it the education system for not investing more time into them? These are questions that I find most important because if we can figure out the solutions to these questions, it not only brings justice to George and his legacy and what his legacy represents, but it brings hope for millions of youth that might have to go through the exact same life circumstances that led to his death. I believe his passing has more to do with the systemic inequality that we have within our society than it has to do with anything else. I like to imagine who was George at 18, at 25. Was George trying his best? Was George attempting to lead a good life but realized, due to not being lucky enough or privileged enough, and because of environmental factors, he realized he would never get out of the economic caste system that saw him as a lesser person because he wasn't given the tools necessary to be a productive member of society and contribute in a way that made a difference for himself and the people around him? Did he realize at 15 or 20 that all the federal and non federal institutions and organizations seemed to be against him and people like him? Did he lose hope early because he had never had an opportunity? What I hope to do in this article is expose some of the societal problems I see within the machine I'm calling the opportunistic slavery machine and possible solutions to the systemic problems. So, opportunistic slavery is when a person or a group is purposefully not given the financial resources, the proper education, or fair political representation they would traditionally need to reach whatever form of success they personally identify with, due to a fear of those that are in power losing the power that they have. So, what I'm going to shed some light on is how the current system is operating, how those that seem to be helping are actually hurting us, and what we can do to help ourselves. So, to begin, I said it before, I'll say it again. I have a company, it's called Next Gen Moving Inc. I'm a fan of the capitalist system. I think that capitalism is good, right? Um, but before we get into how we can change systems, we have to understand what the foundations of the capitalist system are. Um, so I've not been able, we haven't been able to find a better mechanism to be able to distribute resources other than capitalism. Um, but capitalism and every other monetary system should be seen as a set of agreements, nothing more. It's a way of saying, I agree to your terms and conditions because we both believe the same story. And this story is, I trust you with our mediums of exchange, be it cash or credit or real estate or stocks, any means that moves wealth or finances via centralized governments or non governmental institutions like the Federal Reserve and the World Trade Organization. We trust you to protect, what we tell them is that we trust you to protect and control our mediums of exchange because, and play by your rules because we think that you're in our best benefit. But these are agreements, they're not real. They have power because we give them power. Without the trust that it has because of the public, these systems would falter, and we would go into what's called a depression, which I believe will be the catalyst for revolution. We have the power as sovereign individuals given freedom by God, not man, to say as a group, you are no longer in our benefit because of corruption that's happening at the highest levels. And due to your power being from me, I revoke your privilege to control my medium of exchange and will use a different medium that's more fitting for the technological era that we're in. We're the plug. The old system had power because we didn't have another system to be able to lean on, and another system that didn't lead to communism. Our current system functions on something I've mentioned before called artificial scarcity. Artificial scarcity is when resources are purposefully removed, taken, or funneled away from individuals that either do not align with your agenda or taken due to greed, though they could have been given. The goal of the current system is primarily on the allocation and the hoarding of wealth. The more money you have, the more points you have in this game, due to there being a direct correlation between political power and wealth. Instead of thinking the more you help society, the more points you have in this game. So the current system works with tools that are borrowed from others to support financial objectives. For example, the current system we have should be considered a debt-based system that works on an inflation metric that essentially devalues your dollar due to forces that you, the individual, had nothing to do with. This makes buying apples more expensive, as well as making your great great grandchildren's dollar less valuable, and making it difficult for 20-year-olds to move out or get an apartment or be a part of the home ownership club. Alright, so the next area I'd like to talk about is our philanthropic system and how I believe it's being hijacked by these groups that want to sustain power that they have by using their wealth to help themselves out. It's my opinion that large groups of so called philanthropists are using philanthropy as a shroud to push certain agendas that are perpetuating the machine of artificial scarcity. This is basically a system that externalizes costs onto others and tells those that are lucky and privileged to abuse the capitalist system to make a shit ton of money, including low wages, especially here in the US, moving work overseas, polluting sacred religious sites, destroying employment opportunities, while you simultaneously avoid taxes at all costs, preventing you from contributing to the well-being of the society as a whole, legally shifting the burden on the individuals at the median and lower levels of the economic social hierarchies. They do this while politicians and institutions like the IRS force people that don't have an opportunity to own a corporation to pay taxes, and if you don't, you risk incarceration or financial stagnation. These groups use financial loopholes like trusts and Cayman Island companies to export oligarchy away from countries like the US and undermine our democracy, further polluting the political and financial ecospheres. The conclusion I'm realizing is that the rich are the primary reasons that we're having the societal problems that we're having and going through them. Um, so I think personally, we've been lied to, and we've been convinced that it's the ultra wealthy and the politicians that are going to save us, when in reality, it's these groups that are creating the conditions we find ourselves in. It's in my opinion that we make new laws and elect new leaders to prevent companies and groups of wealthy individuals from being able to push policy and legislation that help the wealthy at the detriment of the individuals. It's not the wealthy that are going to save us. It's not the politicians. They're on the same side. They're working against us. What's going to save us is new laws and a new way of thinking about what money is and how money operates and what medium of exchanges are used for. It's the rule of law that saved us and created most of the benefits that we have in our society. It's the law that's going to save us. Uh, and if not, then the likelihood for us to have more situations like we're experiencing now, it's going to be extremely high. The illustration I like to use is of an arsonist disguised as a fireman, convincing the entire fire department that the best tool for putting out fire is more gasoline. Change has to happen. Now, what I will mention next are a few possible solutions that I see as a foundation for real change. I often ask myself, what does a post artificial scarcity world look like? What does a world where every child is fed and every individual has equal access to resources and every person can go to college and people don't have to worry about taking out a loan to buy medicine and every organization that believes in their plan to change the world has an opportunity to do so, what does that look like? And what are the mechanisms we have to change? What are the tools that we have to create so that this foundation can be set for our children and our children's children to see this one day? I'm not entirely sure of the answer, but what I do know is that these riots are about more than systemic racism. The world I envision will start in the exact same way as these riots have started. Will be fed up with how the system is set against them, and riots will be the catalyst for legislative reform. As mentioned before, the number one thing that I believe we have to enter into law is universal basic income. Universal basic income is the first tool I see with bringing this world to reality. Oftentimes, what happens is that due to environmental and cultural problems, individuals lose hope in believing any political reform is possible, and the mind of scarcity takes hold and it never lets go. This continues into adulthood and into the minds of their children, and it's a cycle that never gets broken. Poverty is a state of mind as much as it is a tool to keep people unaware of the power that they have. If we're going to attempt to change how we view finances and socioeconomic systems, we have to use the tools of democracy to be able to do so. The only effective way I see to redistribute wealth is to destroy the incentives to hoard wealth, not to have wealth, but we need to destroy the incentives to hoard it. The system we have currently is too efficient at allowing individuals and companies to have these immense amounts of wealth with no purpose behind having the wealth other than the wealth itself. It's in my opinion that we create legislation that de-incentivizes group from hoarding wealth and incentivizes the distribution of that wealth via tools like angel investing programs, negative interest rates. De-incentivization for its own sake is not the goal. The goal is fair contribution from every individual and protection from systemic forced poverty. What we should be asking ourselves is how do we create a system that would give those that are economically deprived and opportunistically deprived the same opportunity at success as those who are lucky and privileged? How do we create true economic equality? What I see as a possible solution is something called the gift economy. The gift economy was present in ancient cultures and ancient societies before money was created. It worked on the idea that if someone had something to offer, then those who would receive could give in a way that furthered their networking relationship and mutual connections for resources and sustenance. In today's society, we can equate it to retweets and mentions and comments that build resilience and trust through mediums that go beyond financial gain and into the well being of this whole society. These societies worked with these ideals in villages and in tribes between 150 to sometimes 500 people because it was efficient and you could get to know somebody well enough and other people, trust other people's words. Money should be seen now with the advent of social media and as an extension of the ancient gift society. As a final word, I truly believe there is enough for us all to live good. I see it every day. I also know that there's not enough for us to have elites. And if this system continues the way it has, it's our duty to take the pen from those who we have given it to and that have used it against us and wield the sword against them. Thank you.